being an advocate is probably more important than ever. The days of entitlement or rights to commissions, as Byron put it, are over. And imagine if you're the one breaking the news to your client instead of the other way around. If you're not getting educated about current housing market conditions as a real estate agent, someone in financing, mortgages, title, accounting, you're a lawyer, you're someone that advises people, you're doing yourself and your client base a disservice. This is the Knowledge Brokers Podcast. I'm here with Byron Lazine and Lisa Chinati, and another busy week. We're back from Zillow Unlock. I'm sure we can talk about that and the quest for the super app here. I want to start with mortgage rates, guys, because we saw mortgage rates come down substantially over the past 7 days, and it was the largest one week drop in a year. And it also bumped up mortgage demand. So I don't know what kind of rates you're getting quoted. We've seen as low as 7 1/8 or 7 1/4 this week. It kind of bounces around a little bit. The 10-year Treasury yield came down as well, and the average 30-year mortgage fell 26 basis points. Ending yesterday, which is great news. I'm clear it's something that knowledge brokers need to be communicating to their clients, because how many times have you heard rates are too high? How are you coaching clients? How are you advising them? How are you engaging with them with this news that rates have come down back into the low sevens?
Lead with payment is everything right now. So the agent that suggests you should talk to one lender, and one lender only, and they'll tell you what the payment is falling well short of everything that's going on in the industry the last couple of weeks and the professional that you need to be to serve the client at the highest level. So options from a lending perspective would include 2 to 3 lender options that you know are reputable, that understand who understand the local market, who have different product and options, so that the consumer can compare lender to lender, and they may make a decision on, I want to work with this particular person based off intangibles, or they might be commodity shopping, because let's face it, a mortgage is a commodity, and go for the best price. Different consumers are going to make different decisions. I think most are going to lean into price when it comes to a commodity like a mortgage. But as the agent, you should be able to articulate what that payment is going to be. A ninth grader can use a mortgage calculator. Dave Ramsey offers a mortgage calculator. Almost every single website with finance and lending has the mortgage calculator available. So as a professional agent, don't punt the conversation on payment. In fact, lead with it. Make it so transparent. And that payment is, to Tom's point, changing right now, week over week. When you have just a significant drop on the 30-year fixed from an 8 to 7.5 or below, that changes payments significantly. So be able, like you're checking your MLS hot sheet every single day to know what came on and off the market, be checking what those payments look like. Have a place to go to calculate it quickly. That's how I'd be dealing with the rate conversation. And the more you look at these numbers every day as the real estate professional, when you're looking at it, hey, just last Wednesday, I actually sent this payment to a client of mine on this home, and it was $2,300. Today, 1 week later, it's $2,200. And so when you tell the story, when you have the experience of being all in your market and you're tracking it each and every single day, now you're that story is going to really hit with that consumer. Wow, I'm getting this for $100 a month cheaper today than just last week. And that might be the information they need to strike.
That's huge. And I think just being able to communicate what rates are doing, I think, in the environment that we've been in, consumers are so used to the bad news that I'm not sure that they're fully aware of what's happening in the rate market. So even just making sure that the cadence of communication is higher than average is absolutely critical. Explaining the opportunity that exists in the market, not just from the pricing perspective, but there is still inventory that can be purchased, and it's a great opportunity to get in before the end of the year.
There was an article that's actually finally favorable on interest rates on CNBC. I'll pull it up and you can just share the headline. The headline read, "Mortgage rates plunge." So when there's actually good news, like there has been from the financing perspective in housing, you as the agent should be leading with that good news into your database. Don't wait for them to stumble across the one out of 100 good headlines on CNBC on mortgage financing. But it was cool to see that they wrote the facts. The facts are the rate did plunge, a 0.5% drop in a 24 to 48
Colossal.
hour period. That's a huge drop. You don't see historically, you wouldn't see those type of swings. So we're still it can swing the other way now. Keep that in mind. And you have evidence over the last 18 months of it doing just that, swinging a 0.5 point upwards. So you can reference those data points that, hey, this could be your moment right now to strike. Because we've seen with the restrictive policy from the Fed, we've seen more volatility in the 30-year fixed, unlike other periods of time going back in history. Being the knowledge broker means having access to the best and most relevant information to get better at your craft each and every single day. It's why we created BAMX and launched it earlier this year. Since we launched, every single month we add more content, more courses, more live streams, more information into our community, as well as our downloads from the hot sheet each and every single day. And now it's time that the BAMX pricing will go up. That happens on December 1st, but you can get in at the lowest price ever. Use Knowledge Brokers, the code down below, to get in at 10% off the lowest price we'll ever offer. Use Knowledge Brokers down below to get that discount, because on December 1st, the prices go up and only those that got in before will be grandfathered in forever. Take advantage now.
If you're looking to level up your business, scale it out, be able to manage more clients, have a bigger pipeline, you're going to need a reliable CRM. And as a Boomtown user since 2016, we've got some exciting news that KV Core and Boomtown are now part of the same family. And that means they've come together. They're using all their knowledge, all their tech, and they're making an even better CRM that's going to help you scale your business, sell more houses, talk to more people, and manage your leads more efficiently. And if you're like Lisa, she's in her CRM every week. She's in her CRM every day. I think that's what she does in her free time. And she's constantly looking at it to make sure that the opportunities aren't slipping through the cracks. That's what a great knowledge broker does. So if you want to get your business to another level, lean into Boomtown. Visit boomtownroi.com/knowledge brokers for more information. Again, it's boomtownroi.com/knowledge brokers. I'm a boomer since 2016. It's leveled my business up tremendously. Lisa loves her CRM. Byron does too. You should do the same. Get with Boomtown. We've also seen buyers are taking note. We saw mortgage applications jump up 2.5% to 3% week over week. Redfin's saying 3%, Housing Wire saying 2.5% based on these reports that came out. What I find fascinating, Lisa and Byron, is that you call these consumers and they just don't know. And I think it's that's where it's the obligation of the knowledge broker out there to really communicate with your clients. I mean, in light of everything going on with these lawsuits, I know we're going to get into that. Being an advocate is probably more important than ever. The days of entitlement or rights to commissions, as Byron put it, are over. And imagine if you're the one breaking the news to your client instead of the other way around. We literally had the same discussion that Byron brought up on our role play call yesterday, where it's our sales manager, Brian, different person, not Byron. He said, hey, you got to be able to articulate exactly how much money the payment's going to be, because that's what's impactful. And we coached our agent, said, hey, keep the mortgage calculator up on your computer screen when you're making calls. Don't rely on having to memorize all this stuff. Just be ready to have an engaging conversation and bring facts to the table. And when you're the person that's saying, hey, Lisa, I don't know if you and Steve saw this, but rates came down a little over 0.5% this week. So what that means for you is you're going to save $200-300 on your mortgage payment. How much lower would rates have to go, or where do they need to be for you to re-engage your home search? That's a great question to be asking, just to see who's still active in your database, because a lot of people are on the sidelines right now watching this play out. And I do agree. You mentioned there's some opportunity before the end of the year. Inventory's rising. We've seen 40% of listings had price adjustments based on some Housing Wire data nationally. And now we've got rates coming down. And any seller that's out there right now with their home on the market, They are looking to sell it. This is not the let's test the market. Let's see if we can get that really sexy price. Any seller out there right now is serious about selling. So
Oh
if you're
yeah.
not engaging with people, and we're going to get in that like holiday malaise, you two, and I know you know what I'm talking about, where everyone just kind of like, we got 2 weeks and you're going to see agents just be gone for the next 5. This is where you can set up your first quarter and also squeeze in a couple more sales. We're having one of the best weeks we've had all year. This past week, where a lot of people are talking about how slow the market is because our folks are having the right conversations that are actually delivering value to people. And everything that you're hearing right now, from payments to how big this drop is historically, this is the stuff you got to articulate in ways the consumer can understand. Byron did a really great interview with Sharon from Reel, and I think it was like an Instagram reel or something that I saw, where Sharon talked about, you got to explain this stuff in different compartments and different ways people can understand it. And if you're not doing that, like, you lost the consumer because there's way too much noise as it is right now. So I love what both you guys are saying.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to, once you get in front of the consumer, this is why being a knowledge broker is critical. You need to be able to take the conversation, break it down, help them understand. Here's the other thing I'll say. You mentioned having calls, having the mortgage calculator. Obviously being in your database right now is super important. But when you're in your database, you need to be able to get people's attention. And those who are converting on the phone or in their follow up and their prospecting are able to grab attention. So let me just give you 2 examples of maybe a text message or an email message that can be sent out. One gets no attention. The other one will increase your odds of getting attention. So one text or email script might look like this. And hopefully you haven't fallen into this trap. Hi, Tom. I'm just following up.
I hate that.
Are are you
Checking
still
in.
Checking in,
thinking
following up.
of buying? I'm just checking in on that. Okay, that is just really weak. You're not taking any type of stance, as opposed to, "Hi, Tom, I've tried you a couple of times." Now that acknowledges, "Dude, I've been following up." That it says everything about the follow up or the checking in. I've tried you a couple of times. Are you still interested in buying this home? The price just came down $100 a month in the last week. And then you could clip out the headline from CNBC that I mentioned here that we can share. And you can use that because, okay, I know CNBC, look at that headline, mortgage rates have plunged. Um, this person is saying they've got $100 savings a month. Now what are you talking about? How about the home that we looked at, a couple months ago? Have prices gone up or down that? Now you can start addressing those questions, those concerns, get deeper into their timeline, what they want. So don't check in. I've reached out a couple of times, right? That acknowledges the check-in and that they've been busy, right? But a professional, somebody who's going to reach out multiple times, and it's okay to acknowledge that.
Totally. And I think super important to, again, kind of to your point, revisit some of the folks who might have ghosted us or stopped responding earlier in the year. I think that there's a great opportunity to start to re-engage folks with some powerful conversations. Take away the drunk monkey that we can't reach out. If we've had a gap in reach out, I think that that's one of the biggest things that we've been talking about here in the office is just because we might have dropped the ball historically, it's time to suck it up and pick it back up. I think we know lead volume is going to be down as we head into the winter months, and we've got to make more out of less, right? So super important to keep up with those activities as well.
There's plenty of opportunities in front of people. I mean, you mentioned like the ghosted. Usually people like I hate that word. I hate that more than checking in, actually, because ghost it usually means you did a bad job at follow up. One,
Mhm.
so I always look internally. What did I do wrong? Or secondly, maybe something happened in their life and they don't feel like talking to their real estate agent about it.
Of
Right.
course.
So,
I
hey,
do it to
Lisa, I just
salespeople all the time that I'm going
yeah,
to do business with in the future.
Yeah, it's
I'm
just
doing
not the
it.
right time.
I'm doing it to somebody right now. I hope he's not watching this pod, but hey, I'm going to be doing business with you. And I just am too busy right now. I've been flying all over the planet and I'm just not going to talk to you this week.
yeah, and I'll even take it one step further where, like, let's say, like, you don't know what's happening at work, right? Do you really feel like talking to Byron Lazine, who's I've met once, and he's been showing me how he showed me a couple houses, and like, hey Byron, I'm really unsure about my job right now. You're probably freaking out about your family and what's happening. Like people do things for their reasons, not yours. So maybe there's like a death in the family. Maybe something like we don't know. Like I mean, I'm going very extreme here, or like who the hell knows what's going on? But you've got to respect that one, we know it's 6+ attempts is where all the money's at anyway. Like this, and the average real estate agent follows up 2.7 times, according to Byron's BFF, the NAR. That's the NAR number.
Mm.
So it's just you've got to realize, like, hey, they probably got some shit going on in their lives right now, or Byron's ghosting some. I mean, I'm doing the same
It,
thing. I've got some people I'm working with for some stuff on the team, and I'm emailing them like, hey, like, give me a week. I got to get back to you because I got other stuff going on.
Tom,
It go for it.
yeah,
This just drives me nuts.
well, the I love that you brought that in, the ghosting, because it's a excuse. It's something that you do hear agents say, and there's definitely a lack of follow-up of why agents are getting ghosted. But there's also a very simple, and I don't like the phrase either, getting ghosted, but there's also a very simple practice agents can do to decrease the odds of a consumer never reaching back out to them. And it's how they present and prepare for that initial
Mhm.
face-to-face meeting, that initial consult or showing. I was speaking at Real Rise, which was when I did that podcast with Sharon. And before I went out, I got to actually spend a few minutes with Alex Hormozi. He was speaking right before me. The guy is a true sales professional. He's got a really calm demeanor, extreme confidence, because he does what we talk about all the time. A ton of preparation, a ton of thought in the way he's going to approach a sale or an interaction with a potential client. And he actually gave an example, and I'll share the list. We can share it on the screen, Haley. He gave an example of how sales professionals can remind themselves and train themselves to be more charismatic. Because can we all
Oh,
agree that charisma
Ooh.
is a variable? It's the sprinkles and the flavoring on top of the knowledge that we talk about so much, that if you can use a couple key steps, which I'm going to go over right now, to be more charismatic, or to put yourself in a state of charisma when you
Mhm.
enter that meeting or that showing, does that increase or decrease your potential for a sale? Of course, it's going to increase those chances. So, number one, smile when people walk in. Is this an obvious? Yes, but if you go to another market and you tour open homes, and don't tell the agent that you're an agent, that you're an agent from a different state. Don't look for just observe what other agents are doing. When you go into these open houses, a lot of times you're not going to get a smile. You're going to have somebody sitting there on an island. A lot of times I do this in Florida all the time. Some of them, they just can't walk because you know, they're not able to walk anymore. So they are just sitting the open house. But if you can't walk, you can smile, All right. So smile when people walk in. I'd encourage you to go if you can walk, shake their hand, welcome into thank them for, hey, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your Saturday, come tour the property. Appreciate that. Number two, change the emphasis and tonality when speaking. Be excited about the opportunity. Number three, remember people's names. This is a hard one for some people.
oh God, I can't do that.
I mean, we're friends with Tom. I don't
Got a
know
trick for
Tom
this.
Ferry, his ability to remember name. What's your trick, Tom?
You say the name 3 times to yourself in your head, and you're gonna like it actually. And then here's the other trick: you write the name down somewhere. Like just take a note. Like keep a
Yep.
notepad with you.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
it's not rocket science.
if you're on a tour, always have that name written at the top of your notes. If it's the first time you're doing a showing, and
Or
the
like the spouse, and you only talk to the husband. Like that's a big misstep.
the best way to
All right,
remember a
I'm
name
with you there.
the best way to remember a name is, if I'm just meeting Lisa, is, oh my God, Lisa, it's such a pleasure to meet you. Like, repeat the name back, get it out of
Mhm.
your, you
Yeah.
know, your mouth, so that you hear yourself saying it. That's a great way to do it. But remember people's names, whatever your hack is for doing that. It's important. When I walk into a restaurant and people, hey, Byron, it's good to see you, man. Haven't seen you here in a long time. I get this feeling inside me
You get
like
the warm fuzzies?
I do. Anytime
His
someone
cold heart starts to melt like the Grinch at Christmas.
Wow.
when
Okay.
I
2
walk in
sizes too small.
when I walk into a place of business, an establishment, a restaurant, and somebody says my name, it's one of the best feelings in the world. Okay. And so
Well, can I just add in here, like one of the things that I actually think, and I've been digging into in the office, we've got to get agents using the CRM far more effectively. And I think it all kind of ties into what you're saying, noting the spouse's name, noting the children's name, important dates,
Yep.
taking notes about what they liked at the showing and what they didn't like at the showing. And I think that those level of details matter more than ever.
everybody's CRM is incomplete right now. If you go downstairs and talk to Ben and Lee, who are working in the ISA, uh, room here in the department here, I'm like, guys, the lack of addresses in our CRM, yeah, the last 2,000 transactions that we've done in the last 2.5 years, those are all in there. But we need to be obsessed with the addresses. We need to be obsessed with the personal details that Lisa's talking about.
Yep.
And that's why it leads me to the next one that Hormozi says: ask people about themselves, ask questions, be curious about exactly what Lisa just said. What Lisa just did on the pod, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up for this. Nod multiple times when they respond. You got kids, I got kids too, right? Relate there. Keep eye contact when they talk. How many agents, Lisa, do you see that avoid eye contact? It's curious to
Yep.
me.
Yeah, you wanna look at the cyclops spot on their forehead. This is another trick, right? Like, you don't look them right in the eye, just look right here. Like, it's very easy.
Yes. See if they got a unibrow or not. Be thinking unibrow in every personal reaction. Lisa used to have a unibrow. Maybe we can get that picture up here.
I've got amazing eyebrows. I have never had a unibrow. Like,
Oh my goodness.
there's a lot that you.
I used to have a unibrow.
Yes,
Okay.
you
Until-
did.
Sit in now. Here
Yeah.
we go. This is much better.
All right. Keep eye contact. Address everyone in the room when they're exiting and entering. These are very basic skills. But it
they're not
increases your
basics,
chances
though.
of being seen as having charisma.
They're not basics because people don't do it, right? I mean, the basics for real estate agents are like talking about where they're going to go to lunch today instead of like going through a meeting, folks. Or it's obvious to people like us that have studied the industry, but there's such a lack of learning all these things that have helped people for years because of the market that we went through. And the folks that commit to this stuff, Byron, or are going to use the CRM, Lisa, guess who's winning in 2024? It's them. The stuff that nobody else wants to do or they don't think they need to do because they sold some houses during the hottest market arguably of all time.
When we do
I
our
just don't get the pushback. To me, it saves time. Like I'd rather, and this is what I keep saying to
People
folks
think
in the
they know
office.
better. I mean, there's a real issue with this, right? And it's, I mean, we've all talked about this, right? Like we all run plays that work at our organizations. I've made all the mistakes. Lisa, we've talked about this. Like you're very transparent about it. I've made every
Oh.
single possible mistake that's happened in this business, probably more than once. But when we got a play that works, you run it. It's just that simple. And I don't get the resistance either. But that's why. Did you guys see what Tom Ferry put out about Club 13 this week?
Yeah.
This is like my favorite. That's why Club 13 is an exclusive club. The 13% that make it in the industry, and then you can be part of Club 87 and think you're smarter than everybody else, and then be out of the business in 5 years.
Lisa,
Make your decision.
Lisa, what were you going to say before Tom cut you off there on not getting the resistance?
Oh, well, I don't get it because I think, I see agents who say they want to have the result, that they want to sell the houses, they want to earn the money. And from my perspective, letting the systems do the work for you is 10 times easier and results in, ironically, half the work, right? I'd rather not have to meet 20 people to sell 10 homes. I'd rather be able to meet 10 people and sell 10 homes.
Of course.
I'd rather, spend 5 minutes adding the note to my CRM so that I always remember it in the future versus having the same conversation on repeat over and over. I'd rather know that I've got the system set up to generate repeat and referral business versus having to constantly generate new leads, build new relationships, and start over.
If you don't take that note that you said, it takes less than 5 minutes, by the way. A great note can take you very little
Voice
time.
dictate it in 10 seconds.
If you
Well, but my point is like 5 minutes all in for each lead
Yeah,
to
for each lead,
write
yeah.
a note, right? Schedule an intentional follow-up. And like,
I gotcha.
I'm like not just schedule a call, but like, why are we calling? What are we going to talk about? Like, did they just get back from vacation? Are they excited about looking at the next home? Are you going to talk about interest rates? Like, how do you there's so much that agents can do better to do less and earn more, but there's always pushback. I do
Yeah,
not get it.
if they're going on vacation in St. John, like I am next week in the USVI, you maybe pull up a nice, oh man, I never knew much about St. John. When you follow up with them in 2 weeks, have you heard of this location? Somebody else I went there. Like, just have something relatable. But if you put that information into the note that Lisa's talking about ahead of time, that conversation is going to go much smoother. When people get ghosted, another problem with that follow up is they're not relatable, because it's like, dude, I've already told you this. You don't even
Correct.
remember who I am. You might remember my name because that's the only thing in your CRM, but you don't remember who I am. We do
Can I?
yeah, jump
Oh,
in.
well, I was going to say, I think one of the other things, and to kind of like make a segue into what we had talked about as something else to talk about today, is one of the other things that I'm passionate about is that our CRM should be used as protection for agents. And they should realize that in an industry that is as litigious as real estate is, what often can come to the aid of the agent is the notes and the data that's contained within the CRM. Oh, Tom, you raised your hand.
I've got 2 examples why this helps. So we got a complaint about someone we sold a home to and said, I didn't ever subscribe to your email list or everything else. The state investigator was here 2 weeks ago, and the guy logged into our CRM 3 separate times with 3 different emails and a different phone number. And I said, hey, here's everything that he did. And he goes, wow, I usually don't get this much information. I'll be closing down this investigation now. Thank you. Last
Yeah.
night, we had another agent say, hey, you reached out to my client. I told you I'm under buyer agency agreement with these people, blah, blah, blah. And they had come in contact with us, logged into the CRM. And I said, well, that's not true. We've opted them out of communication. We did this all, and this is literally time stamped the same day. And she's copying her broker on there, and it's all this
Yeah.
nonsense. I sent screenshots to her last night in about 3 minutes when I got home. End of story. That can turn into a major time waster for a lot of people, because then you're dealing with
Huge.
mediation, arbitrate. I had the freaking state board in here,
Yeah.
and the guy was in and out in 5 minutes, and he said, hey, and then he said, I'm thinking about buying some properties. Let me call you, which is even better because I knew what we were talking about.
This is
These are great examples.
yeah, this is an incredible point. And if you don't think, if you haven't been in a legal situation in real estate yet, the last 2 weeks should wake you up that those potentials are coming. Um, the the phrase or the acronym EWC. If you're not up on EWC, you have a problem. Express written consent. Well, why do so many agents uh, spend all this time, money, energy, and effort generating online leads? Well, because they're getting the most valuable thing in the world, which is what we're talking about with the CRM. They're getting express written consent to do the follow up on those agents. Okay. Express written consent is not, hey, my friend told me that Mrs. Smith is thinking about selling her condo. And now I heard a rumor in the local coffee shop. Now I'm going to attack Mrs. Smith with, phone calls and text. She never gave you consent to reach out. You got a rumor and maybe a recommendation, but you better get an introduction in that case, which not everybody's comfortable doing. You may have the comfort level there, but express written consent is so valuable in the way Apple's changing, iPhones, and the way Facebook is changing guidelines. Express written consent is everything moving forward. Tom,
Well said.
we want to move into some more legal issues.
So if you're not following BAM, I mean, obviously now BAM has been doing an excellent job with these lawsuits. And I find this even more fascinating. I also think Ricky Caruth's been someone we should talk about, how he's been portraying this. I know Byron and him, they go out to dinner together. They have bros weekends all the time.
Hey, listen,
Um,
we had our debate, and I think Ricky Caruth is doing a lot of things really well.
I love his coverage of these lawsuits specifically because I think it emphasizes some of the things that are happening here. So after the Sitzer Burnett verdict was announced, lead counsel Michael Ketchmark, he announced that he's going to file another class action suit with a list of new corporate defendants. And now there's been all just a barrage of new lawsuits that are happening. I mean, and Byron, I'd love you to kind of break this down here, but we've got the defendants are now Compass, EXP, Redfin, Weichert, United Real Estate Corp, Howard Hanna, Douglas Elliman, and now there's this new case called Batten 2, which is exponentially larger than the newer Gibson case, Sitzer, Burnett, or Merle. There's a lot going on here.
Well, but Baton 2, however you pronounce that,
Yeah,
has the same. It started by an attorney in Illinois. It has the
yes,
same exact defendants that you just read off about the national lawsuit that Ketchmark launched.
mm-hmm.
Yet when Ketchmark was asked, "Hey, was there communication between," and the new one, Batten 2, is now home buyers filing
That was the
filing a
crazy
lawsuit
part.
instead of home sellers. But was there communication between you? No, that's their lawsuit. I know nothing about it. Yet it's basically a mirror image just on the home buyer side of that lawsuit, and he's saying that he's not conspiring, colluding, wink, wink, talking to that other attorney. Of course, there's conversations. He's already admitted that he's talking to the DOJ, and that the Department of Justice and this attorney in Missouri, Michael Ketchmark, are colluding together in their efforts to destroy the National Association of Realtors. So if there's really any conspiracy to tear something down, you could certainly point your finger to that side. There was an agent, or not an agent. There was a witness on the plaintiff's side, um, who spoke at or did an interview, okay, with a news source. It was one of the witnesses that they called. He actually used the Remax agent when he sold his home in Missouri. And he said verbatim the same things in interviews that Michael Ketchmark is saying. The system is unfair and it needs to change. This is the script. So they wanted to point out Mike Ferry's scripts and other scripting during the trial, but this is the script that they're using on interviews. The
Mm-hmm.
system's unfair and it just needs to be changed. People are being charged too much. Like they're just using the same thing. So they're doing what they said is wrong with the industry, which is training on how to speak on their position. By the way, this is the same witness that during the trial in Missouri, the Sitzer Burnett trial, said they had a fair experience with their Remax agent
Hmm.
and that they were happy with the experience. Now, I've said this a bunch of times. I think where NAR failed is that they didn't have that Remax listing agent as a witness on the other side. Tracy Casper, the president of NAR, came out this week and she said, "I know I've heard a lot of, feedback and objection to how we handle this, that we didn't have real estate agents as witnesses, but we did," she said. "We had the former president of NAR, like some president like a couple decades ago, who was a realtor. No, she was part of your good old girl, good old boy club. That doesn't, I want the agents of these 5 witnesses from the recent sales that they're talking about to be on there. How'd you negotiate that deal?" And so, listen, here's where we're at right now. Every day there's a new story, a new angle, a new interview you can point to. There's more lawsuits like the new one, the home buyer one, that they're trying to go national on a class action. If you I'd be shocked to not see another dozen lawsuits over the next, 60 to 90 days. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
more of them. All right. I don't agree with advice that some people are going out there online. You hear some people saying, if you're not attorney, don't comment on the lawsuits. Well, if you're a human and a real estate professional, you can have an opinion and a stance on it. So don't listen to those idiots who say if you're not an attorney, don't have an opinion on it. And don't listen to the people that are telling you to put your head in the sand and don't worry about it, and just control the business that's in front of you right now. Know about this information, have a position on it, because everybody that told you not to worry about it, NAR included, from 2019 till today,
Yeah.
that told you that this was going to go away is wrong, because it's not going away. And I've had multiple people from outside the industry now. Just last night in my local cigar lounge, somebody brought it up to me. This is going to be brought up over and over and over again. And if you can't articulate your position on it, you're going to just look like they're going to believe what they're reading in the headlines. If you don't have a stance or a position, they're going to lean into CNN and Fox News. I thought Taya's breakdown of CNN, Taya DiCarlo, there's a little clip on that. Maybe we can link it below. I thought she did a great job having an opinion on it. Lisa, what's your opinion?
Well, you know where my opinion stands. I just wanted to point out that the two notable things with the new one is the inclusion of Redfin, which has been a very anti-NAR for a long time, and also is a discount brokerage. I think everybody who's listening to this pod understands that there's a very big difference between the way that Redfin operates now and has operated historically. And they've also been one of the biggest anti-NAR companies for a very long period of time. So I think interesting that they were included. And United Brokers, which also operates as more of a flat fee kind of brokerage versus a traditional brokerage, which is what we've seen kind of looped in up until this point. So those are just my kind of like interesting like side notes.
Brian Boero from 1000 Watt said, yeah, in a tweet, you post a tweet up here. Yes, brokers should train agents on buyer representation agreements. But this is the easy part.
Yes, I agree with that.
Communicating value compellingly. So going back to what we talked about at the beginning of the pod with, just having a mindset of charisma, so people actually want to sign them, is the hard part. And how you're going to approach these conversations. When we lead an L10 meeting within our company, within the different, segments or pods of the company, the first thing we do, and what they teach you with EOS on an L10 meeting, is to have a segue. Tom, Lisa, give me something, good in the last week, both business and both personal. Okay. So, sometimes you get to personal and people are like, I just can't think of anything personally. Take the smallest thing. That right there is feeding your mind that nothing good is happening, that I can't overcome the challenges ahead of me, that I don't have one thing in the last 7 days to point to as a positive, as opposed to feeding your mind with, hey, I made it to the gym today. It wasn't my best workout, but I finished the deal. I went with my commitment. It could be something that small, and you start building off of the wins. You start building the confidence each and every single day by having something good to talk about. It goes back to like what Brian's talking about, what we talked about with Hormozi. Communicating value comes by being compelling. It comes by being charismatic. If you're not pouring into your mind good wins, good information, it's going to be hard to do that. To your point on Redfin, Lisa, I quote tweeted the Redfin Daryl Fairweather, who's their economist. She tried to do a victory parade. It was unclear whether a jury would understand the economics of price fixing well enough to see NAR's rule of having the seller pay the buyer's agent as a scheme to prevent competition, but they did. Bravo to the prosecutors for their economics communication skills. And so obviously, I quote tweeted her. I said, Redfin has always hated the American dream. And, it's people like her and the CEO there that just hate the idea of more people being able to achieve the dream of home ownership. And then just within hours, there's so many comments, people saying, how do you like you being named now in the lawsuit? Because Redfin is clearly, Michael Ketchmark said, he's clearly in the crosshairs with adding them to the lawsuit.
Without a doubt. It's interesting times.
Byron, you said something about delivering value and being able to execute and actually get a buyer agency agreement signed. And one of the things I've studied, as much as I know you two have, is a listing appointment. And if you're not taking that same sort of approach of how do I deliver a great buyer meeting. And it starts with communication. We talked a little bit about this when we were prepping for the show, where you can't say to someone like, hey, Lisa, do you want to meet me for a buyer consult? Like, what the hell does that even mean? Right? Like you lost the consumer
Great
right
point.
there. A buyer consult, that's what we call it, right? I mean, but that's not what consumers call it. So, hey, Lisa, what if you and Steve were open-minded to maybe a strategy session, how to navigate the current market? Would that be something that would help you get clear on your goals? Or why don't we have a planning meeting? Because I know you're thinking about doing something in the first quarter, and the first quarter is going to be here pretty soon. So I'd rather have you properly prepped. So when you are ready to go, we're not trying to figure it out as we go. Right. So then that's step one. But then what if Lisa asked me or Steve asked me? I think Steve would probably be the one that would ask, would be my guess, just from knowing you
Oh
guys.
yeah, he
Hey, so
he he holds the brains in the relationship.
yeah,
So he's tough.
he's a very smart guy. I mean, might be the smartest couple I know is the Chinati
Shout
household.
out to Steve Chinati.
Yes. I mean, he's hacking all sorts of software on a regular basis for the Chinati organization. It's impressive. But hey, so what are we going to cover in the meeting, right? And this is where I think a lot of agents get lost. We've been doing trainings on it internally, and I know Jason Posnick with Lisa's organization. I know Byron, you guys do the same thing. It's hey, here's what we're going to cover. I'm going to show you how the purchase process works, so you know what next steps to expect once we go through this. I'm going to give you kind of a time frame or a roadmap. I'm also going to talk to you about what's happening in the market right now. And we've got a 14-point plan that we can win offers. I'm going to show you every single way we can do that. And we're going to get clear on your goals, not only when hiring an agent or finding someone to represent you, but also your goals with the housing search. Is there timing that needs to be met? Do you want to be in a certain area? What's going to be most important to you about your move? And we're going to go over how to vet lenders out and find the right person. Byron, you talked about having 3 lenders. I think that's massively important right now. And if you explain it like that, it's so much easier for consumers to understand. It goes back to that Sharon interview that you did. If people aren't doing that, it's like, hey, you want to meet for a buyer consult? I mean, just like it's what you say really matters, but you've got to say it in ways people can understand because we're so used to using industry jargon. And this is a lot of industries.
Yeah,
Biggest pet peeve.
yeah.
Yeah.
Industry jargon's not going to cut it to have these conversations. Somebody's analytical; they want to go deeper. Maybe they're very experienced. There might be a time to bring some of that out in a really deep analytical conversation, but not when you're trying to get somebody in position to be educated on a foundation of moving forward. So, Tom, am I hearing you right that the end of January, the beginning of February is when you'd like to be searching for a home?
Yeah. That's maybe even find something by then. We're hoping to be settled by the second quarter.
So would it make sense to be as prepared as possible to be able to obtain the lowest price going into a seasonal market like January?
I mean, yeah, that certainly sounds like it makes sense, Byron.
So Tom, would it offend you if we had a strategy session? I could come to your house or here in the office where I show you exactly how I'm helping buyers achieve that goal?
I mean, I'm offended every time I talk to you, but no, all kidding aside, that would you be offended? That's going in our script book right now. That's
Yeah.
how good that is. I'm a
That's
yes
a
on
good
that. Like
one.
you got me.
Yes,
That's really good.
Yeah.
because we've asked a couple questions now. They've given the timeline. They understand how important strategy is. Say, hey, so would you be offended if we went over this strategy that's been working for our buyers in this market and in under these conditions, right? And so people aren't going to be offended by that. They're going to be grateful for the opportunity to sit down with you, a professional, and take the time to go over the strategy. Have a road show. I know we call it consultation. Have a roadshow strategy session that you can bring to the dining room table, just as you would
Mhm.
on a listing presentation. Have an in-office presentation and have a virtual presentation. Be able to achieve this goal on a screen share. Know how to screen share. It amazes me. I'll be on a call with an agent, a Zoom call, and it's like, hey, I have a question about this. Oh, great. Show it to me. Well, how do I do? Where's the? You're a presenter of information. Know how to utilize Zoom. Be in a well lit room. Have a virtual experience. That's pretty relevant. We did this on a live stream at BAMX, where we're just talking about the presentation, both virtually and in person. Like if your Zoom presentation looks like you're in a dark room, a bunker during World War III, you're not going to convert. You're going to get, as we said before, ghosted in those situations.
Well, it comes back, and I think we need to leave it here because Lisa's got to go. She's a very important person, Byron.
Yes.
So you said last week, I put out some content about this, and this is the mindset everyone's got to have, is that every day is a job interview. And I'm going to stress this again because you got to be ready to communicate this stuff on demand. It can't be, I rehearsed the listing presentation or I rehearsed the buyer presentation. What if you got a call right now? I want to go look at this home at 5 o'clock today, and you've got other appointments, and you can meet the 5 o'clock appointment. You're not ready. Right? Like the practicing shouldn't be happening only when you have appointments. This needs to be a skill, right? Michael Jordan didn't practice his jump shot right before he had to shoot the game-winning shot in Game 6 of the finals against the Jazz. He practiced it his entire career because he lived in the moment, and that's what agents should be doing right now. Be ready to do business.
Without a doubt.
100%. All right.
Great show, you two.
We got to end it here
All right.
because Elisa hard stopped Chinati.
Something like
Hey,
that.
She works in time blocks. Another great thing knowledge broker.
I got a hard stop too. All right.
Okay.
Have a great weekend.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.
Bye.